Mic check. Good morning and welcome to After GMS, something we do every Monday through Friday right at 7:45 on Facebook Live. I'm Tracy McCain here in the studio. Ed Matthews is in the Weather Garden and Megan Malaris is working from home. Guys, this is a very big week. We're going to be talking about what could be announced from the governor in just a few moments. But first, Ed Matthews, get us started with the forecast.
Well, possibly a 90-degree day today. Well, about the only thing that would keep us away from 90 would be all these clouds that I'm seeing up in the sky right now. Maybe even a spritz or sprinkle early this morning. But I think what will happen midday and on through the afternoon, we'll see more of a mix of sun and clouds. So if we don't crack 90 today for the first time this season, we have another opportunity to do it tomorrow. Now, the storm chance later today, pretty low, maybe an isolated storm or two and a few storms tomorrow, but our best shot of showers and storms will come our way for Wednesday and Wednesday evening, and those extra clouds will drop temperatures back into the mid-80s. We got a cold front that will move into the area late Wednesday and then pass east of the area on Thursday. A leftover shower Thursday morning, otherwise partly sunny and mid-80s. We'll be optimistic right now and go with a dry weather pattern for Friday and Saturday. 86 on Friday, back into those upper 80s by the weekend.
All right, and by the weekend, we could be in phase 3 of the state's reopening plan. So let's get to it here. This week, Governor Roy Cooper is expected to announce whether the state will enter phase 3 of reopening or perhaps, as he's hinted, transition backwards to a modified or longer phase 2, or, as some of you are suggesting on our Facebook live stream right now, go back to phase 1. So what do you think should happen? Stay in phase 2, move into a modified phase 2, move to phase 3, or go back to phase 1. So I asked on my Facebook page, and a lot of you already weighing in here. Tammy Russell said, I say move forward. The virus is here to stay. We have got to get back to normal, people. Tim Jones says move into a modified phase 2 and make wearing masks mandatory. Deborah Reed Tinnen said, I think we should close down, go back to phase 1. Too many people are getting sick, she says. And Aaron said, it doesn't really matter. No one is listening anyway. Look how many people are sick again and still going out around people. I feel like we were safer with the phase 1 and a curfew like before. Janice Danley said, no matter what our governor decides, he will be criticized. He is in a no-win situation. May God help him make the decision that is good for the people. So as you guys are sharing your thoughts in the comments below, we'll ask the team here, phase 1, 2, or 3. Where is the state headed, Ed Matthews?
Yeah, well, I'd have to say 2.5. I mean, I would love to see us go on to 3 and move forward and get our society back to normal. But given the data that we've had over the past week with the increase in the number of cases being reported, I just don't believe that is going to happen. I would be really surprised if he went back to phase 1, but I think a modified phase 2 is probably what he's going to do. It'll be interesting to see. And by the way, if you know, face masks become mandatory, it's not going to change my life because I got a stack of them in my console in the car, and I still wear masks everywhere I go. So that's what I'm thinking, 2.5.
Okay, well, hold off on the mask conversation because we have another mask debate coming up that we want you to weigh in on. But Megan, before we talk about that part, we have to first talk about phase 3 and the data as you've been tracking since the beginning. It doesn't look as though there's the trend that he wanted to see.
Right. Yeah, based solely on the data and the criteria that Governor Roy Cooper and his task force have been saying will be the judgment call in deciding whether to move on to phase 3, I would not be surprised if North Carolina stayed in phase 2 or did like a modified 2.5 and did not move into phase 3 on June 26th as initially speculated as an option. That's because hospitalizations had a 5-day record high in a row last week. 5 straight days of record hospitalization numbers. They did decrease a little bit from Saturday into Sunday, and we'll have to see what today holds. But as far as case increases, yeah, we've seen cases continue to increase day by day too. That said, testing continues to happen. So you have to look at the percentage of overall tests that come back positive. And the past couple days, we've seen that number at about 10%. That's on the higher range from what we've been seeing the past couple of weeks. So we'll look at the data today and then maybe have a better idea as far as what this task force is going to decide to do about phase 3.
Right, and we should note, because I did see a question, you know, when is Governor Cooper expected to make his next announcement? We don't see him on his public calendar today as having any public announcements or any meetings with the COVID-19 task force. So we won't necessarily be bringing you that part of his information today. We just know because Friday is the beginning of phase 3 that this week he'll have to say at some point his decision on whether the state will move forward. Okay, so there are a lot of comments here on our Facebook live stream. I'm going to read through them. They are at random. As they pop in, I'm going to read them. I am not selecting only one side or the other. They are all at random. Just want to put that out there so I don't get accused later of only choosing one side or the other, because that is not the case. All right, here we go. Angie says, move forward. And then Wanda says, phase 1. So there you have two opposites back to back. Julianne Jones says, mandatory masks, but move forward. Shireen says, I think we should go back to phase 1. Keisha says phase 1. Fran says open our state. If you're scared to get out, stay home. And then Susan says no, not phase 1. And I think that's because that was when the stay-at-home order was in place and it restricted travel times. It restricted pretty much everything in terms of, you know, our new normal. So that's not something that she wants to see. George Spicer says reopen the state. Crystal Coleman says phase 1. Diane Walker is fine with a modified phase. And then Sandra says, no, should go back to phase 1. We never got that phase right yet. So, and then Charlie Parton is saying Roy Cooper should resign. So there are a lot of different opinions here on our live stream. We have to kind of keep going here, but I guess I'll leave it back up to the team here. As we look forward to this announcement, you know, Ed Matthews, I guess we just have to be prepared for whatever, whether it is a modified 2.5, as you called it, or if it is a full out phase 3.
Yeah, and you know, not playing partisan politics here, but I feel for the governor and really for all of the other people, the school officials and everybody that are trying to make good, sound decisions in dealing with this pandemic. And the governor has just been on the hot seat now since March. And, you know, he's going to be criticized one way or the other. But I think realistically and rightfully so, he's going to look at the data and make his decisions on whether we go forward or we stay in phase 2 or we actually go back to phase 1. I think he's going to look at the data and make a decision based on that. He's just not pulling magic out of a hat or anything like that. He's realistically looking at data. As much as I'd like to go to phase 3 and 4 and 5 and get back to normal, that's what I really want, and that's what we all want. But we got to be realistic. We're in the middle of a pandemic still.
All right, well, we're not done talking about the governor's decision because we have more mask debate to talk about in just a few minutes. But first, let's talk about the morning headlines, Meg.
Yeah, a lot happening overnight, or since this weekend, I should say. NASCAR officials say they're investigating after finding a noose in Bubba Wallace's garage stall at Talladega Sunday. Wallace is currently the only black driver in the Cup Series. Yesterday's race got rained out, but drivers and their crews, as well as some fans, were already at the track, and someone reported finding the noose Sunday afternoon. Wallace has recently championed racial equality in NASCAR. He was a big voice in calling for the banning of Confederate flags from races, something NASCAR agreed to do. Wallace also drove a Black Lives Matter car days after protests surrounding George Floyd's death. Back here in the Triad, Graham police arrested 2 men after a heated confrontation at a protest this weekend. This demonstration was about the fate of the Confederate statue that stands outside the historic courthouse downtown. The 2 men arrested face charges ranging from disorderly conduct to assault. Police say this happened Saturday night at the base of the Confederate monument. Video reportedly shows a man and woman lashing out at anti-racism protesters. Megan Squire says she started recording when things started getting heated. At one point, she said a man hit her in the face. This incident is the reason for the 9 p.m. curfew for the city of Graham. For now, the statue remains in front of the courthouse, even though many people for years have called for its removal. Well, we've talked about the COVID-19 cases in North Carolina, and we want to reiterate here, positive cases, or at least daily positive cases, dropped a little Saturday into Sunday with more than 1,400 reported. That brings the total confirmed cases since the pandemic started to more than 52,000, at least 29,000 recoveries, and we'll get another recovery update today. Let's break down cases by county. There are more than 2,400 cases and 106 deaths in Guilford County. In Forsyth County, more than 2,500 cases and 28 deaths. In Alamance County, 939 cases and 35 deaths. We'll get another update on WFMY News 2 at noon.
So as more states reopen, more people are contracting coronavirus. COVID-19 cases rising in 21 states, according to the CDC. That trend started in early June as states lifted restrictions. 10 states recorded highest 7-day averages last week. Sunday, the World Health Organization said the global number of coronavirus cases jumped by over 183,000 during the previous 24 hours. It's the biggest one-day increase since the pandemic began. So let's get off of this for a little bit and something to make you smile. Did you watch last night's ESPY Awards? The annual awards show went virtual to honor athletes who inspire both on, off the track, field, or court, as you have it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. I appreciate this.
Wow, a great moment for Taquarian Ware, who won this year's Jimmy V Perseverance Award. Of course, the award named after NC State's famous coach. Ware suffered intense burns in a house fire when he was 4 years old. He let the setback of his injuries motivate him to accomplish his dream of playing college football. Truly a motivating person. Well, North Carolina native and Wake Forest alum Webb Simpson took home the win at this weekend's PGA tournament in South Carolina. He won the RBC Heritage Tournament on Hilton Head Island with a 22 under par score. That's amazing. By the end of the summer, by the way, the PGA Tour will be back in the Triad for the Wyndham Championship, scheduled to tee off on August 11th. So, okay, I wish we could talk sports a little bit more because those two stories were phenomenal, right? 22 under par. He was ready to play some golf, right? All right, but we are talking about the state's reopening, and we are waiting for Governor Cooper to determine which phase of reopening the state will enter next. Governor Cooper says he's weighing the options also of making wearing masks mandatory for everyone who is out in public. So the question right now, how long do you think masks will have to be worn? So in the Florida Keys, county commissioners voted to require face coverings for everyone in an indoor public setting until next June. Yeah, June 1st, 2021. So they'll be wearing masks for at least another year. And Matthews, I know you love your trips to Florida.
Oh my goodness.
Key West especially. Does it look like you're going to have to pack your mask then on your next trip?
Well, I'm shocked that you said that, because I've already booked a flight to Key West for June 2nd of next year, the day after. I guess they can take the mask off, but hey, I will comply whatever their rules and regulations are. I don't like the word mandatory. I'm a free spirit, okay? But if that's what it takes to get people to wear a mask, I guess so be it. You know, so many people, unfortunately, have passed away, not only in the United States and North Carolina, but around the world. Isn't that enough motivation to protect yourself? I don't believe, you know, I kind of felt a little weird the first time I wore a mask out in public. It's okay. It's okay. And I think everybody should do it to protect not only yourself, but everybody around you as well. It's just a shame that we got to have another law on the books about wearing a mask. I wear mine, so it's not going to affect me anyway.
Well, CDC guidelines are that everyone wear a mask while in public. These counties in Florida now making it mandatory for the next, several months, I think because they've seen a spike in cases. Now, I have to actually look at the articles, but I have seen where Florida is one of the states that is seeing an uptick, as of late. So that's kind of my thought on that. How long do you think we'll be wearing masks? I mean, I guess that's up to the CDC, but what's the latest timeline, Megan? Have you heard anything about a vaccine?
The last I heard on a vaccine was that they're still in trials and hoping to get one out by the end of this year. Of course, we all hope that's the case, especially as these schools to make decisions about whether to send students back to the classroom or continue online learning or do a combination of both. With regard to masks, it's important to note here what you said about these masks potentially being required indoors in public places in Florida. We've heard at least one local expert say COVID-19 is not as easily transmitted outside as it is inside, as long as people are socially distanced 6 feet or more away, which is why a lot of people are preferring to dine out on patios or go to these open air entertainment spaces like the North Carolina Zoo, which did recently reopen with timed entry procedures. But I think as long as you have your mask handy and you don't mind wearing it, not only to protect yourself or others around you, you're putting yourself in a good position to continue helping fight the spread of this virus.
Yeah, so I am busily looking on our feed here, trying to see if anyone's weighing in about the mask debate, but it looks like the phase 1, 2, 3 question is kind of taken over the conversation, and I don't mind that because it is the talker of this week and it is affecting people here in our state, whereas this mask debate is Florida. So, I mean, I get it, and we don't have to talk about it here in terms of the masks, but I will say that, we will know soon what the governor decides. Friday, June 26th is the day when phase 3 was supposed to happen. Now, what I kind of hope doesn't happen is that, some places get left out, like what we saw in phase 2, where some businesses weren't allowed to be a part of the original plan. And I think that just kind of took people by surprise, and especially the owners of those businesses. And I'm not saying whether it was right or wrong. What I'm saying is that, people were shocked. And, I think since then, that fight to get them to be back open has kind of taken a lot of twists and turns too, just as recently as Friday, when the governor vetoed a bill that the legislature had passed to allow bars and fitness centers to reopen. So they've kind of been on this roller coaster ride. And again, I'm not putting my personal opinion into it. What I'm saying is that there needs to be just a clear decision, and hopefully we can move on, because when you have that kind of, it just throws everybody off. Oh, do you agree with that, Ed?
Yeah, I do. I do agree with that. Set forth a plan, and I think that for the most part they've done a fairly good job with that. Put forth a plan and make sure that we understand it. and businesses understand it in what they need to do moving forward. I think that is vital and very important. May not be easy to do. I'm not saying it's an easy thing, but we've got to make sure we have clear-cut decisions and we communicate those decisions to everybody, all the citizens of North Carolina and the businesses as well.
Oh, that keyword communication.
We are in that business, aren't we?
We are, certainly. All right, Ed Matthews, why don't you take a look at the forecast for us?
Gladly.
See what's happening out there?
Gladly. Well, what's happening out here? Lots of clouds around the area. Don't be alarmed if you have a few spritz or sprinkles on the windshield this morning. No measurable rain this morning, but as we head through the afternoon, there may be a few pop-up storms, just pop-up storms, very few and far between today and tomorrow. The only thing that will keep us from 90 degrees today would be these extra clouds, but I think they will partially thin out, and I think overall a mix of sun and clouds. So I think we're going to get pretty close to 90 for maybe our first 90-degree day here in the Piedmont. If we miss the boat today, we have another opportunity coming up tomorrow. I'd be fine if we don't reach 90 all summer. 87 or 88 would be just fine with me. But nevertheless, a better chance of showers and storms by Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening. That's as a cold front moves into the area. Extra clouds will keep us into the mid-80s. A leftover shower Thursday. That front will move to the Carolina coast and likely stall out there along the beaches. With that anticipated, we'll go with a couple of dry days for Friday and Saturday. Mid-80s on Friday, and we're back into the upper 80s by the weekend.
All right, so we're hot for the next few days.
Yes, and humid. Plenty of humidity to go around for everybody.
All right, well, I'm going to make sure that I get permission for you to come back to the newsroom with a polo on for the noon newscast so you can breathe a little.
That sounds like a plan. Very comfy.
I'll seek permission. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
All right, thanks so much for joining us here on After GMS. Please watch us today at noon because we will have the latest COVID-19 numbers and the data trends that will depend and determine where the state moves from here. We'll see you next time, everybody. Take care.